target. Rendezvous with 030. Copy.
Strapped in?
Valaran forces continued their attack on Batavia today. It is feared that Federation troops might be overrun by daybreak, forcing the planet to fall under Valaran control. With this latest defeat, it is uncertain how long the Federation will be capable of holding on to its colonies. The Valaran army at this time seems to be unstoppable. Several top Federation officials have even stated that they fear the war might soon be lost.
They're ready for you, Mr. Cole.
The most important thing to remember here is that the situation is still controllable. Before any of you panic again and go crying to the media, I'd strongly advise you to reconsider. I trust you all know John Cole. 7 hours ago, Cole, there was a prison break at Alpha 16. Details are still sketchy, but we know that one prisoner managed to escape.
With everything going on right now, General, an escaped convict seems hardly an emergency.
The prisoner is Philip Naj.
The scientist? How can he still be alive?
You'll find all the details you need in his file. Your job is to find him and bring him back. Just because this Federation is at war doesn't mean that we can allow criminals to run loose. Besides, returning Naj to prison is extremely important to us right now.
I would think that winning the war would be more important.
Sorry, Cole. This mission might not seem exciting to you, but we are willing to pay your fee. I expect you will return the fugitive quickly and quietly.
Do you have any leads?
We were able to maintain a strong tracking signal on the escape vehicle. Not surprisingly, we tracked it to Wetlands.
Who's my I.O.?
Your information officer is Lieutenant Christine Mills. She's a very capable...
I know, Chris.
Fine, you'll start immediately. There's a transport standing by. Good luck, Cole.
Mr. Cole, this is Captain Bacon. It seems that our presence has attracted some attention.
What do you mean?
We're tracking multiple inbound targets.
Are they hostile?
That's the only kind around here.
How can I help?
Well, we've got a skeleton crew on board, mostly rookies. If you're as good as your reputation, I'd sure like to have you on the forward turret.
My pleasure.
Cole, there's a battle cruiser coming around on the port side. It's a tough ship, but if you wait for its guidance systems to turn on, a hit to the seeking unit may just blow the whole thing. Time to celebrate. Get in your sub. We're dropping it now. This crate took a lot of hits. I'm not sure it'll hold much longer. See you around.
So, together again, Cole.
I wouldn't have it any other way, Chris.
How do you want to approach this one?
I'm going to start with Omron. There's a guy there named Quag. He pretty much runs Wetlands. If anyone would have a clue about our guy, it would be Quag.
He sounds like a charming fellow.
He's not. Cole out. I'm here to see Quag.
We'll look for him somewhere else, little man. He's not here.
Your honesty is charming, but I don't believe you.
I'm going to enjoy killing you.
Just what I was thinking. Stay down. I'm looking for Quag. Now, you gonna tell me where he is, or do you want to join your friend back there? What did he say?
He said he's in the lower bar. Use the transporter in the back room.
Where do you think you're going?
I need to see Quag.
Let him through. I've been expecting him. Ah, Mr. John Cole. I am once again graced with your presence. I assure you, however, that none of my men are here illegally. They have all served their time and are completely rehabilitated.
I have no doubt. I'm looking for a prisoner who broke out of Alpha 16. And if you could help me, I could keep the Federation off your back for a while.
You know, John, the Federation doesn't pull that much weight around here anymore. It's the Volarans that we should start fearing.
This war's been going on for years, and it's gonna last a few more. Now, what do you know about my guy?
I don't know anything about an Alpha 16 con. No one talks anymore. You never know who to trust. However, I have heard something that might be of interest to you.
And what might that be?
They found a dead Federation soldier at a power station in Blue Sector. The feds haven't been on this planet for months, and now suddenly one turns up dead. Isn't that curious?
I'll check it out.
A lot of people on this planet don't like you. You should watch your back.
Thanks for the advice.
Cole, I just received a report that the Omicron police have orders to bring you in at any cost. They've dispatched officers to get you.
I don't have time for them now. I'll take the tunnels back to the hangar.
The tunnels? Isn't that an easy place for an ambush?
That's their problem.
You haven't lost your touch, Cole. Why do you suppose the police want you?
On Wetlands, police is another name for mercenary. I've made a lot of enemies here. I'm sure one of them paid those goons. They should have known better. What do you got for me, Chris?
I've been able to ID the person who helped Naj escape.
Let me guess. It was one of your agents.
How did you know that?
Quag told me they found a Fed's body out in the Blue Sector. I'm guessing it's the same one.
The weird thing is, her rank was A11. That's a top-secret operative. There's no reason for her to be on a prison planet.
Unless she was there on a secret mission. I'm heading to the power station. See what else you can find out about this woman and get back to me.
All units, sonar base C-21 is tracking a hostile target in blue section. Engage and destroy.
Attention, unknown vessel. You are violating federal law by approaching this station. If you continue on your present course, an auto-defense system will be activated to destroy your craft.
Sorry, but I have a problem listening to machines. I found the body. It looks like she was shot once, in the back of the head. This girl was set up, Chris. Have you been able to get any more information on her?
The only thing I have so far is that she was assigned to a project called Othello, but I can't find any trace of it anywhere in our system.
All right, keep looking. I'm going to try and find the control center in this place. The computer log will tell me who's been in and out of here.
What was that?
The station is under attack. I destroyed the auto defense systems when I came in. That's what I get for being efficient.
If you're able to make it to the defense center, you can manually operate the cannons. Hurry! Thank God you're all right.
Takes more than a few torpedoes to kill me. I'm in the control room. Stand by to receive a data link.
The computer logs show that several power cells are missing.
I need to know what happened to them.
The energy cells give off an ion leak. I've tracked the ions to an oxygen facility 300 miles northeast of you. Whoever took the cells went directly there.
I'll check it out.
units. Engage enemy target. Sub approaching. Scramble fighters to intercept.
There's too much sonar activity around the plant. You'll never get through.
I could send in a probe to knock out their defenses before they even know what hit them.
Make sure you destroy the power relays. They'll open the defense gates later on.
Power what? Their defenses are down. It's safe to go in.
Naj will be pleased. We've done well. Let's bring him in. Get him! Freeze! Put the gun down slowly.
Chris, what's going on?
The station will self-destruct in 5 minutes. There's a magnetic field holding all the escape doors shut. If you can destroy 10 circuit breakers within the station, the field will weaken enough for you to blast through. A regiment of soldiers have also stayed behind to ensure that you don't escape. Be careful.
Destruct mechanism activated. 5 minutes remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes remaining.
That was a close call. Have you learned anything more about the Othello project?
All the files were ordered closed 20 years ago. But get this. The petition to seal them was filed by a Lieutenant Corbett.
General Corbett? Your boss?
Not only that, but 3 days later he was promoted to captain.
I never trusted him.
I'll do some more checking.
Look, I need to lay low for a while. If I can make it to Xi Colony, I know I'll be safe until I can figure something out.
You know, I've been thinking. Naj's bomb was detonated from his research ship. Now, if you can find the wreckage, I'm sure we'll have more clues.
You want me to try and find a 500-year-old ship at the bottom of the ocean?
It's on the way to Xi. In the meantime, I can do some more checking.
All right, give me the coordinates.
I've got a visual fix on the target. Request backup.
I've got company. Well, I hope that whatever I just pulled out of that thing is worth it. But I can tell you this.
What's that?
Whatever Nige was working on was not for his own use. He was working for the government.
How do you know?
Because what I'm looking at is no little research vessel. It's a Navy battleship.
That's why they never executed him. He was one of their own. Can you downlink the data that you found?
Already doing it, Chris. Listen, be careful. We're onto something bigger than we thought.
I will.
I'm heading to Zai. Contact me when you know more.
Attention, unknown vessel. Stop and prepare to be boarded. You can walk.
Cole, I've got more information.
From the wreckage?
Yes, and you were right. Naj was working for the military. His project involved the creation of a nuclear bomb that wouldn't leave any radioactive fallout. He was very close, but the military wanted the bomb immediately. Naj warned them there would be side effects, but they ordered a test anyway. Cole, this guy was framed and imprisoned to cover the military's tracks.
Why didn't they just kill him?
I don't know yet. I need to do more checking.
I've got Zai in range. Contact me as soon as you know more.
Bring him to me.
Back up. Slowly.
No trouble in my bar, buddy.
Welcome to Zai, Mr. Cole. I'm sorry the accommodations couldn't be better, but there's someone here who couldn't wait to meet you.
Naj.
So you're the one who's supposed to stop me. I would think my capture would be a greater priority. No matter. No one can stop our plans now.
I know what happened to you. You didn't want any of this. The people you want revenge on have been dead for hundreds of years. You were used once. Now you're being used again.
You're right. I didn't want any of this. But I've decided to face my destiny and assume my fate.
What fate is that?
Unfortunately, Mr. Cole, you'll never know.
Kill him.
Chris, I'm on a hover bike. Can you give me a path to the docking bay?
Negative. The station plans are encoded. If you make a wrong turn, you'll have to start over. If you make the same wrong turn twice, you'll die. The bike that you're on should have deflector shields, but not very strong ones. They won't last long. Be careful.
That's easy for you to say.
running out of time, Chris. I planted a tracking device on Naj. Can you lock in on it?
Wait a minute, this is strange.
What is it?
The signal's coming from the surface.
Then I'm going up to see what...
Don't. They'll pick you up on radar as soon as you surface.
They'll try.
Your sub isn't fast enough above water. You'll need to find a faster ship.
Not a problem. Alright, I need the coordinates to Naj's location.
Set your course for 98 by 45. But before you go, the project Naj was working on was also called Othello, and it was never canceled.
They continued without Naj?
Not exactly. He was placed in a cryogenic freeze, and Othello was officially placed on hold. They must have figured that the rain would stop, and they could resume testing.
But the rain never stopped.
No, it didn't. And as a result, Naj remained frozen all this time. The thing is, Cole, that the day before the prison break, Othello was officially reactivated.
So, Corbett sprung him free, but then somebody else stole the scientist. That's why a prison break became an emergency. I've been set up, and someone's going to pay.
Forget about revenge, Cole. Whoever Naj is working for has big plans for his weapon. There's a lot at stake here.
You're right. But when this is over, I'm gonna have a few words with Corbett. This can't be. He'll never guess what's in front of me.
What? What is it?
Land.
How can that be? We've never picked up any landmass above water before. It must be cloaked.
I'm looking at my sensors right now. There's a structure up ahead and a giant mass beyond it.
The first target is probably the shield generator, which is cloaking the second target.
Naj is up there somewhere. I'm close. I just hope I'm in time.
Good luck, Cole.
moment of glory is finally here. I give to you our promised leader, the one who will bring us out of our watery solitude. I present to you Philip Nash.
Our time has finally come. The weapons completed and enhanced. There will not be a planet in the universe that won't fall under our control. As I speak to you now, the Volaran Armada is waiting for us in space, prepared to deliver the final blow to the Federation. They will have no choice but to surrender and submit to our new empire. Pilots, man your fighters. I will be right beside you on your glorious crusade.
Sir, a small fighter has just come out of hyperspace into our formation.
Is it one of ours?
Yes, but he's late and not responding.
What's his course?
275 and closing on the gunship.
He's trying to take out the weapon, dispatch fighters, and swing us into his path. He must not get by us.
Yes, sir.
Chris, a Balaran gunship is in range. Scramble all fighters, now!
We can't. They attacked earlier and knocked out our bases. It'll take hours to launch any fighters. You're the only chance that we have.
Great.
It's too late, Mr. Cole. Within minutes, the Federation will be defeated, and there's nothing you can do.
Well, I can at least teach you to stop doubting me.
Great work, Cole. I monitored the whole thing from the ground. I knew you could do it.
How's Corbett?
He's fuming because you destroyed the gunship. He'd rather you'd forced it to land so the weapon could be seized.
You know what I like about Corbett?
What?
Nothing.
This just in. It appears that a Valaran armada had entered Federation space with orders to attack the planet Imian. Having no time to spare, the Federation army managed to scramble fighters into battle and defeat the Valarans. Under the direct leadership of General Corbett, the Federation's pilots not only managed to repel the invaders, but also destroyed 5 Valaran capital ships in the process. General Corbett is to be commended for his superior bravery.